Today on Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, we're talking about the gift of being sensitive. Have you been told that you're too emotional and feel too much? Do you find yourself in pain or feeling hurt when you see others suffering? When someone says something unkind, does it feel like a shot to your heart? Learn to embrace your sensitivity as a gift as we continue our month focusing on all you need is love. Do you control your clutter or does your clutter control you? On Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, we'll teach you awareness as well as action steps to create change in your life. Come on, let's get started. Today's episode was inspired because most of my life I've been told I'm too sensitive. When I was working in Los Angeles, the CEO of the nonprofit I worked for told me I was too sensitive. Now I'm going to do an episode coming up at some point on gaslighting. I'll never forget he was an old man, screamed at me. And when I went to our quote unquote HR person, she was like, well, you should have asked differently. What? And that I'm too sensitive. And so it was about me bucking up. And with my immediate boss, we had to sit down with the CEO and have a conversation. And, again, it went back to me being too sensitive. And I'm like, what is it that needs to happen when you immediately say someone's being too sensitive instead of addressing bad behavior? And I think that goes on more often probably than we think. Sensitivity is part of my intuition, and it's very important. Today's episode was also inspired by the men in my life. My dad is a big old grumpy cat, but inside he's a marshmallow teddy bear. I'll never forget, I was in Los Angeles and looking for a place with the realtor, and Big J was just being total crank monster. And she literally, like the Pillsbury Doughboy, just poked his belly and was like, you're just a big marshmallow inside. And he was like putty in his hands, and the grandkids call him Grumpy Cat, and he's mellowed a little bit since the grandkids. My brothers are like that. They're sensitive men. My husband, Tony, wouldn't change him for the world. And this guy's crazy and jumps out of airplanes and is also very sensitive. And we've been watching Married at First Sight, which is fascinating. And I talk a little bit about in the other episode. And I encourage you, if you're dating, if you're married, watch it. I think the experts give really good practical advice on relationships, but it is fascinating to me watching people who take no responsibility and seeing people stay stuck and grow and stay stuck and don't grow. And then the people who have amazing personal growth. And we stayed up last night to finish the ending of season 3. And we always make our predictions, and I ended up being right. And so in this one couple, and what I think is hard for women being told they're too sensitive, I think almost it's harder for men that are sensitive, right? Because society has these quote unquote expectations about what a manly man's supposed to be. My husband's a manly man and he's sensitive. And so in this episode, at the end, the woman said yes to staying in the marriage, and the guy's like, I want a divorce. And what was fascinating and why it happened, so some of these men have the patience of saints. I mean, I'm just really, I think men and women have differences, and it's been really helpful to my husband and I to talk through these things. So anyway, when this one couple started, she was awful to him, basically insulting his manhood. And she was like, you're not a man. And she ended up coming around. She's really like kind of aggressive, and he was really calm. And they explained why they matched them together and how they would be a good influence on each other. But she just really said horrible things, and I kept going, oh, I can't believe she said it. Now, she had amazing personal growth, and it was fascinating to see her. And then they do things, they check in 6 months later, and she said, I was mortified when I saw my behavior, and I've become a better person. And they ended up being friends. which I thought was really lovely, and talk about embracing personal growth, becoming better people. And I think it helped him too to understand he needed to express his needs in the relationship. But anyway, when he said he wanted a divorce, he said, I just couldn't get past that hump of the first couple of weeks, how you treated me. And they're married for 6 weeks. So it's really everything: meet, get married, honeymoon, live together, really in a compressed timeline that others might have years to figure out before they get married. And I can understand why he said I'd lean one way and then I'd lean the other way. And I understand why he said I want a divorce, because it was just too much. And he was obviously a sensitive guy. This episode is for all you all out there who've been told you're too sensitive, maybe haven't embraced your sensitivity, and hopefully this will give you some tools. Not embracing your sensitivity creates clutter. It can cause you to be less compassionate and empathetic, creating spiritual clutter. Instead of being open to those feelings, you shut them down. If you don't honor and express your feelings, it creates emotional clutter. You can have mental clutter if you have a lot of anxiety or fear around being emotional. Think about, am I too sensitive? Should I say that? Did I do that? Why? Blah, blah, and creating that mind chatter. You can create health clutter if you don't honor when you're in tune with your body. When it was been, when did this journey start? I think in September 2019, I said to my new doctor, I have to get my mammogram. Can I get my thyroid scan? I just feel intuitively like we need to check. I said, 12 years ago, this little growth, and they told me I wouldn't have to worry about it until I was 80. Well, my intuition was right. It had grown significantly and started to impact my windpipe. I honored my intuition, which again, I feel is fueled by my sensitivity, and was able to see that I needed a medical issue taken care of. And I found this from Psychology Today. A highly sensitive person, or HSP, is a term coined by psychologist Elaine Aron. According to Aron's theory, and her last name is Aron, if you want to check her out because she's written some books. According to her theory, HSPs are a subset of the population who are high in a personality trait known as sensory processing sensitivity, or SPS. Those with high levels of SPS display increased emotional sensitivity, stronger reactivity to both external and internal stimuli, pain, hunger, light and noise, and a complex inner life. She estimates that 15 to 20% of the populations are highly sensitive people. You can be sensitive or highly sensitive. Today's episode is about that, about embracing the gift of sensitivity. Here are some signs that you might be sensitive, and this is not an all-inclusive list. I'm always going to encourage you, do your own research, check in with how you're feeling. You're overwhelmed easily. You're listening to a podcast on clutter. A lot of time when people have clutter in their life, it's because they're overwhelmed. It's hard for you to let go of negative thoughts and emotions. You find yourself ruminating over things again and again. You may feel physical symptoms if something not so great happens. Maybe your tummy gets upset, or you have a headache, or you feel tension somewhere in your body. You have a lot of tension or anxiety. It's because you're sensitive to that. Sensitive people also tend to compare a lot. You find yourself comparing yourself in life. You get upset about injustice or aggression. One of the challenges for me to letting go of all the stuff that went down with the solar at the HOA is because, in addition to what happened to us, I found out that they had been discriminating against some families in the neighborhood, which upsets me way worse than any monetary amount that we could have lost. And it's the injustice of all of it and people being able to behave badly and getting away with it. I'll keep you updated. Hopefully, we're going to have some big news to update on that soon for those of you who've been following my solar panel saga. Feelings are hurt easily. I often say what others do is about them and how you respond is about you. My feelings still can get hurt very easily, and that's part of my sensitivity. Holding a lot in, and maybe that means also internalizing things that are negative. Again, watching the show Married at First Sight and seeing when the person that internalizes something and the person that gets it out or maybe externalizes it or points the finger at someone else when they should be pointing at themselves. Feel awkward in social situations or big groups. I know I'm like that. I much prefer smaller groups than being overwhelmed in a crowd. You might be self-conscious in your romantic relationships. You might not be a fan of crowds, bright lights. You get easily startled. I am definitely all of the above. I get startled very easily. I can watch a movie, and if I'm not paying close attention and the clues have been dropped, I will get, scream or get startled during a movie. Highly sensitive people tend to not like the negativity of news. I encourage you to seek out good news networks that are out there and make sure you're getting your positive news and maybe turn off the news. I have one, I'm hoping to have her on the podcast. I have one source of news and she goes around and cites everything, and that's what I read to keep abreast of everything. Sensitive people tend to not handle criticism well. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. We have to develop how can we handle that better. You tend to need alone time. I know that that's still really important for me. I'm in a happy marriage, but I have to make sure that I get time to myself. And then finally, the last trait I'm going to share with you is that caffeine can affect you. My husband can drink coffee at 10 o'clock at night while he's working. I would be up all night. I can't have caffeine. I try not to have caffeine past noon. If I have it at 2 or 3, I'm pushing it. Does the thought of clearing your clutter overwhelm you? Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out has 21 standalone chapters to fit your schedule and lifestyle. Stop being afraid, gain clarity, and go at your own pace. The Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out workbook lets you record your thoughts step by step as you go through the book. Free MP3 meditation with purchase. Get control of your clutter so your clutter doesn't control you. Reclaim time, money, sanity, and resources. Learn more at reawakenyourbrilliance.com and also available for purchase on Amazon. Making being sensitive work for you. You definitely can do this. Recognize and honor your emotions. Feel those feelings. It's about getting out of making something bad or wrong. Good, bad, right, wrong. We have been told that being sensitive is a bad thing. It's wrong to be too sensitive. When you're aware of all this, you're going to have lots of different emotions going on. So feel it, scream, cry, shake it out, do what you need to do, and don't label it as something that needs to change. But remember, emotions and feelings are just energy and motion wanting to move. So get that stuff up and out, feel them fully and release them. Tell people when you're overwhelmed or you're overstimulated in certain environments. Maybe you are going to CatCon. That's on my bucket list, is to go to one of the CatCons. And you could say to your friend, I get overwhelmed in crowds, so I'm going to have to go to the bathroom every hour just for a few minutes of downtime where I can just sit and close my eyes, sit in the bathroom stall, take some deep breaths, and get recentered. If you're at work and have to do something, let your coworkers know, hey, this is just a little overwhelms me. and I want to bring my A game. So this is what I get to do to make sure that I don't become overwhelmed. I think the majority of people out there would appreciate you saying, hey, this is what's going on, and this is how I can change it. Have a plan of action always helps, instead of you doing something and having a meltdown and people are like, what the heck? What's going on here? You say, here are my challenges and here's my plan to overcome it. People are really going to appreciate that. Be able to say that in your friendships, your romantic relationships, and your family. You know what? Sometimes Uncle John's a little too much for me, so I need someone to play defense. And if he's cornered me at our annual Christmas party, come save me. There's nothing wrong with that. That's completely okay. Have a plan to manage stress. Make sure you're sleeping, you have good eating habits, but also talking with someone if you need to. Maybe for you, that means not watching news. How is it that you will manage when you get overwhelmed and stressed out? Maybe you need to schedule a monthly massage. When I lived in Los Angeles, I need to get back into the habit. I had a massage therapist. I met her when I was in a car accident and she helped put me back together. Every time, so I would see her monthly. Every time, she had this cute little house with this little gate and white picket fence. And every time I'd drive up, park my car. When I opened that gate, I could just feel myself relax. It was that Pavlovian response. And I'm like, I'm going to get some really great self-care. So figure out what it is you need to do. Maybe it's you meditate daily, you go for a run, however you can best manage your stress. Be compassionate with yourself. Do you think that you're going to have a better response if you speak kindly to yourself, embrace this as a gift, embracing all of you, the good, bad, and the ugly, and say, I am a work in progress, and continue to work on yourself? Or if you just yell and get frustrated with yourself? What do you think is going to feel better mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? Be compassionate towards yourself. We all have stuff that we work on. I remember once, I think it was the Dalai Lama, and they're like, you're Zen, you're groovy, and you've got it all. What is possibly, quote unquote, wrong with you? And I believe he said he was afraid of flying. And so that was something that he was working on. So if one of the top Buddhist people in the world can have a challenge, you are not alone. So remember that. And it is about putting one foot in the other, front in the other, doing the best that you can. And if you go up that spiral and then you slide back down, it's A-okay. Last year, I had two meltdowns during all of this. And then one that sticks out is a grocery store. And I'm like, I have to be compassionate with myself. I flipped out once. I didn't shoot anyone. I just expressed my frustration. And that has to be okay. I'm not perfect. And then finally, work on not taking anything personally. I mentioned all those traits at the beginning for highly sensitive people. One of those things about criticism and negativity and sometimes internalizing that. What others do is about them. How you respond is about you. As much as you can, embrace that and do it, and then be okay if you get upset. Comments that are mean and hurtful still upset me. I'm a lot better than I used to be. And that's one of the reasons that, unless my intuition says you need to go read your reviews, I don't. I told you I get that weekly update, and I'm not listening to it, because if someone's going to say something nasty, then I just don't. I'm minimizing. That's a way to manage stress, to minimize and embrace my sensitivity. So how can you love, accept, fully embrace your sensitivity? I encourage you to find the gifts. One of the things for me is I believe that my sensitivity, because I'm in tune to things, helps my intuition. It supports my intuition. The more intuitive I am, the more I listen to that, and the more I honor it, the better off I am. So that, to me, is a gift of sensitivity. I also believe that it supports me in being a better coach because I'm sensitive. I definitely am not going to judge anyone I'm working with. And it allows me to be in tune to what they're feeling, to understand their pain, the ability to listen. Not everyone can listen. I think sometimes we take it for granted, but next time, watch on social media. There's this woman I watch in one of the groups, and it's fascinating how every post she tries to sell herself, get someone to listen to her or to buy her book or whatever, in some way tries to slide right on and make it about her. That's not listening. Or if you are talking to someone and you share something, do they try to one up you? He said, listen the next time you all talk. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's right. If someone shares something, it was one time, it was like watching a tennis match and a volleying back and forth. And I don't even know if either of them are aware of it, but just pay attention the next time and see if you're really listening. So find those gifts that you have. You're overwhelmed because you are in tune to how others are feeling. I know we have all met someone that's completely clueless. They don't care. You're going to be more attuned to your environment. You're going to pick up on how people are feeling. An example I would use, we had to put Athena down. It was really hard. Cotty, so had texted her, and she knew I needed to talk before the woman came over and kind of process it. She has lost a cat. She understood what I was going through. This is the first pet we'd ever lost, and it was really hard for me. And she's sensitive like I am. She was able to tune in through text that I needed to talk. What a great gift that is to me, because I couldn't express that I needed to talk to someone. I needed to talk. When you're sensitive, you can do that. Also, you tend to be more aware of sensory details. You probably notice colors more, or maybe you're like me and you notice textures and you like to pet everything as you're going through the store. You might hear sounds more fully. How great is that? How awesome is that? It's like high def of life. You are able to have such a rich sensory experience. You tend to be able to read people well. Danger, Will Rogers. I shared that time when I was in Hawaii and was told to get up until I felt I heard someone literally screaming at me, get up and move. And I believe that saved my life. I will never doubt that. I trusted just seeing this person kind of lurking. Ooh, not good. You need to move now. And I trust that with people. One of the reasons I do free consultation is I want to make sure we're good match. I want to be able to have the skill set to support you, but it's also for me. I'm not interested in having a client that's going to drain and fight me. I've had those before. It's not fun. I'm not interested in that anymore. Allows me to read people and know what's best for me. And ultimately, I believe best for the other person. They need to mesh well with whoever they're working about. You tend to pause and reflect rather than rushing in because you're kind of absorbing, picking up on nuances. That's why I like to do coaching through video, because you might be saying X, but I'm also, what is her body language saying? Is there something deeper going on? And it just allows me to be able to pick up on the whole environment. And it's like if I go to a party or something, reading the room, just okay, what's going on here? What do these people really like? Is really important for me to, I'm trying to be better about this. Just pause, take it all in, and then I can make an informed decision. Sensitive people tend to have greater empathy. Wouldn't the world be a much different place if we all had empathy? I think that's something that is definitely lacking in some people. I read some of these stories or hear these things, and I find it heartbreaking. I just don't understand it. I really don't. I don't understand taking an automatic weapon to ordinary American citizens who are counting ballots. Like, what was up with that? They're doing their job, and you feel the need that you have to go. I don't know what people thought they were going to achieve, but you trying to intimidate or threaten someone with a gun? That just, to me, isn't even empathy. That just goes to scariness. But what gets you to that place? If you had empathy and thought, well, I'm sure I'm going to say that most people are honest. I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to trust the international watchdogs. I'm going to have empathy for people who are counting all those ballots and in that room and have people staring at them and are under bright lights. You tend to have a higher emotional intelligence because you're aware of your inner state. Some people can't tap deeply into themselves. You tend to have that ability. If, like I mentioned a moment ago, saying, I need my thyroid checked. I'm not a doctor. So that leads to better health, better creativity. I have nice conversations in my head all the time. I believe I'm connected to a higher source that, for me, my books are creative. The podcast is creative. It allows me to tap into that. I believe we're all creative. I believe in some way, shape, or form. I feel that if you're sensitive, you have the ability to tap into that a little more. And again, if you're a little more introverted, if you talk to an imaginary friend of the kid or whatever, you're able to access that rich inner world. A lot of times people who are sensitive tend to be more honest and authentic. One of the biggest compliments I get from this podcast is I keep it real. You see my warts. Will be the first to say I am not perfect and nowhere near it. I keep it real because I believe that by being honest and open with you, you'll trust me more. It'll allow you to have those aha moments, and it'll help you move forward in your life because you can say, wow, she's really had some struggles, but she's been able to accomplish some things. She seems pretty happy. If she can do it, I can too. About keeping it real. I believe it also supports you in opening your heart more and connecting more. Again, watching the show is fascinating, and watching how people's blocks keep them from connecting to another human being. And I think that that's really vital. And we all have things in our life that are going to shut down our hearts, of course. We all are going to meet people that make us feel disconnected. And we're like, oh, you know what? Ugh, I don't want to be around that. But as a sensitive person, I think you have a leg up on that. And it allows you to be more open-hearted because some people that just aren't sensitive. I remember reading when Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt got divorced. I think there was a famous quote where she said he had a sensitivity chip missing. Because my husband's sensitive, he was able to connect with me and I was able to connect with him. He's completely open-hearted and I'm the same way. So those are some ways, some positive attributes for you to think about to embrace your sensitivity. I really hope that you do see it as a gift and to switch your thinking on that if you have been like me and told all your life that it's a curse. It is not. Embrace the gifts. When you should be concerned. Anytime you haven't been able to move forward or you feel really stuck, if you are overwhelmed a lot with negative thoughts and emotions and it's been for a while, then you might want to seek some professional support. Check in with your friends, your family, people who know you really well, because they might say, you know what? Yeah, you've seemed off for a little bit. Maybe it might benefit you to talk to someone. You can embrace them and still need support. I need support all the time, and I need a little more support last year, and I finally had that aha moment. Wow, you've been working on this for a while. It's time for you to reach out and just get a little more support, and there's no shame in that. No shame in that at all. Take actions from today's podcast on embracing your sensitivity. Contemplate the sign that you're sensitive. Understand how you can make being emotional work for you. Create a plan to deal with when you're in situations that might overwhelm you. Tell family, friends, and colleagues how they can best support you. Think about all the gifts you have because of your sensitivity. Pay attention if your sensitivity has overwhelmed you or if you've been feeling stuck for a while. Embrace the gift of being sensitive. On our next episode, we're talking about all you need is love. Go out, clear your clutter to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire. When you clear your clutter, you can share your gifts with the world. Sign up for our free newsletter at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. If you've enjoyed Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, please rate, review, and share us.